Hello everyone, this is Sedworth, just showing another one of my Bitwig tricks. And the reason I keep making these videos is because when people ask about what's so great about Bitwig, the common responses are the modulation system and the routing. But yet, most of the videos I see are people using it the same way they would any other DAW. This video is to show some stuff that Bitwig can do that I personally haven't seen other DAWs do, or if they can, it's hard to get to. Anyway, this little trick is meant to emulate the sort of functionality that you would see with Reaktor's Ultraloop with some extras thrown in. I'm going to hit play, and you're going to hear nothing. Now, when I hit my keyboard, play with my keyboard, you're going to hear me switching between different loops as they're playing. You can have some MIDI already set up to do this, kind of like Ultraloop. You see here, you're switching. Now, if you want to add it to this, on the same keyboard, on the same track, you can add some effects using the MIDI multiFX system that I showed on the last video. Okay, now let's say you wanted to do this in sort of a live situation. Maybe have one of the loops playing the whole time and then be able to switch between the other ones. So we got this one playing, now we're going to switch. Left hand here. Use the right hand to play effects. Sorry, that's a ridiculous amount of fun, and I think people could get some use out of that. And now that we see what it does, let's build it. So the first thing you're going to need is an instrument track. This is going to drive the selections. So I got one here, and now we're going to need some audio to switch between. I'm going to use some of these Beatport construction kit loops that are part of the partner collections. I'll just pick the kind of the full beat for all these. The tempo doesn't matter so much because it's stretching, but sometimes the stretching doesn't sound good, so just, make sure it's going to be good before you do it. And so, while we're setting this up, I'm going to mute the other ones that I'm not using. So, first thing you need here is a note receiver. And it's going to get it from this instrument one. I don't like the name instrument one. It's not very descriptive. So I usually name these kind of tracks. Sometimes software people use terms like master and slave, and I just don't like the term. So I like things to be friends. So this is the MIDI friend. And I know it's corny. I don't care. So it's getting its MIDI from the MIDI friend. And it also is going to need a note filter to tell it what key. And I always start with 36, being it's my first key. 36 and 36. Hooked up next to a note mod. Inside of this note mod, I am putting an instrument layer, or FX layer. This is not going to hold any effects. This is because switching this on and off will take the volume all the way down to negative infinity. Some of the tool and the gate, etc., won't. So that's why I'm picking this. It's just so it can turn on and off. And we're going to do this, and now we're going to try this. Okay, nothing. That's what I would expect. And if I go to my MIDI friend track and hit 36, I hear my loop. Oh, I need to have the note mod, all the sustain all the way up and everything else off to make it work right. Okay, good. And next, we need to move all these to all the other tracks. You could just copy your tracks first and then move your loops into that, but I did not. So I'm going to stick these inside of a chain container. The chain is just there to hold effects. And I'm doing this for two reasons. One of them to show you that this is an easier way to move a whole group of effects, but also to show you that there's often a problem doing this. I'm just going to copy this to all of these loops. Okay, good. But if I take this mute off, because when you move a note mod inside a chain, the note mod stops working. So you have to actually move it off and then move it back in. So I was also showing you a bug and the workaround for that bug. So this one's key 37. So we got two keys so far, 36 and 37. And we're going to do the same thing here, making sure to unbug our chain. Move it out of the chain, move it back. It works. Okay, move the key 38. Not 39. Not 37, 38. Oops. I had to use it. Okay. Same thing here. Sorry about that. Fix our note mod. Next one. Up to 40, and now we have 5. How many do I have? 5. Cool. Now I'm going to make a little MIDI clip. I'm actually going to sort of do this like Ultraloop. So I'm going to start just having something in all 5 of these notes just so that we can get them in this. Whoops, I made one too many. Don't actually need this lane, but that's okay. So now I'm going to use this to set this to 16ths. Make a little something here. Oops, we gotta make this the right length. And it's starting to sound like a easily chopped up beat. Let's get that loop in better. Yeah, that's the kind of thing you do. Now, you got your MIDI set up, you got your loops going, great. Now let's say you want to put them all on one track for purposes of further processing or maybe adding MIDI-driven multi-effects like in my last video. The next thing you need for that is you could use either an instrument track or a hybrid track. I have a hybrid track here. And gonna point, I'll show you where the routing thing is here. This is the default, what you're gonna see. So you hit this button down here, make the routing show up. And I'm gonna point these to, I don't like this name, hybrid 7. We're gonna call this loop bus. And we're gonna point all these to the loop bus. So now they're all coming through this track. Great. So now that you have that, let's add some multi-effects. I'm not going to go in how to build the multi-effect system. I just made a video about that. So now I'm going to use one that I prepared earlier. It has more than factory stuff in it. There's a few things from Yuhi's Ubik collection. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I'm sorry, I'm not German. And here's some effects in here. And let's see how this works. I'm going to play our little loop thing.
perfectly the way I think. Now let's take this further and say that you want to actually play both of these at the same time on the same track. So what you're going to do is get yourself a note receiver here. We're going to sort of split the notes between the two tracks. The note receiver, MIDI friend. We're going to need a filter. And I'm going to set this filter to C3, even though these effects start over here on C1. And then I'm going to translate, it doesn't matter, the upper limit. Then I'm going to transpose using the note pitch shifter down 2 octaves. So it's going to get keys starting at C3, take them down to starting at C1. Let's see how this works. We'll just let this play and then I'll hit. Yep, that's what you'd expect. Now, I'm going to add one more thing to the end here, and that is, well, I've already got it set up here, but the same kind of a latch system I built for the MIDI multiFX. I'm going to get rid of this just so I can show you how it's built. You take one of the loops, whichever one you want as sort of the default, and make a copy of the filter inside of an effects layer. Or the filter and every other effect attached to it. So the whole thing inside an effects layer, copy it. You mute one of them, grab this. The key should take this down to negative mute, if that makes sense, and this one to positive mute. And then your latch will be able to switch between either having it latched, playing the whole time, and then interrupted by the other keys, or to have nothing playing except when you're hitting a key. So you got to take a little bit further to make this go. In the copy, this key has to be everything that has another loop on it. So in this case, it goes from, I think, 37 to 40, but I'm just going to go up to 45 just because. And this needs to be the opposite. So we need to get rid of this mix modulation and take this down and have the mix go the other way. Let's test that. Good. Good. And this looks like it's still muted, or it might, but the mute is gray, so that means the mute is off, even though the sort of display here is grayed, it's still working. And here's the latch. Switching between my loops, it's coming out of this loop bus. I'm going to use the other keys to play effects. Anyhow, that's a lot of fun to play with, and hope. Oh, the police sirens. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.